A woman installed a security camera in her living room to catch car thieves. Instead, it caught her own dog, 190-pound Boerboel, that someone had chained to a Texas highway and left to die, doing something at exactly 3 a.m. that nobody in that house knew was happening, every single night for 7 months. And what the camera recorded 3 weeks later proved that the dog the whole world threw away was the only reason she was still safe. Rebecca Hale had installed the camera for the wrong reason. She was a 34-year-old ER nurse living alone in a quiet cul-de-sac in Frisco, Texas, an affluent suburb north of Dallas where nothing ever happened, and everyone agreed that was the whole point. She bought the indoor camera after a string of car break-ins 2 streets over, mounted it high in the corner of her living room so it could see the front door and hallway, and then more or less forgot it existed. It was supposed to catch burglars. Instead, it caught something she could not explain for 7 months. The dog had come into her life 8 weeks earlier, and not by choice. Her brother, a long-haul trucker, had found him chained to a guardrail on Highway 380 outside Denton, 190 pounds of fawn-colored muscle with a black mask and a body so thin you could count his ribs through the loose folds of skin. A South African Boerboel, the vet said, bred to guard farms against lions, worth a fortune if you bought one, and yet someone had driven him out to a Texas highway and left him to die in the heat. Her brother couldn't keep him on the road, so the dog came to Rebecca, who did not want a dog, who had never wanted a dog, and who named him Bear within an hour because his head was the size of one. The first weeks were not romantic. Bear was terrified of everything. He flinched at the dishwasher, the doorbell, the sound of keys hitting the counter. He wouldn't eat unless Rebecca sat on the floor next to his bowl and stayed there until he finished. And even then, he'd stop chewing every few seconds to check that she hadn't left. He had clearly been hit at some point, because if you raised a hand too fast near his face, all 190 pounds of him would press flat against the nearest wall and tremble like a much smaller animal. A dog bred to be fearless, taught instead to be afraid. It broke something in her every single time it happened. She kept a notebook those first weeks, the way she charted patients at work, because it was the only way she knew how to love something she didn't yet understand. Day 3, ate half a bowl. Day 9, let me touch his ear without flinching. Day 14, followed me to the bathroom and waited outside the door. She didn't realize until later that the notebook was really a record of a dog learning, hour by hour, that this time the hands reaching toward him would not hurt him. But slowly, Bear chose her. Not all at once, in pieces. First, he started following her from room to room, 10 feet behind, always watching. Then 5 feet. Then he started sleeping in the hallway outside her bedroom instead of in the living room. Then one night she woke up and he was lying across her bedroom doorway, his enormous back pressed against the frame, facing out into the dark house, like he was guarding the only thing he had left. Rebecca's coworkers warned her, a 190-pound rescue with an unknown history, alone with a woman who worked 12-hour shifts. Her sister-in-law said a dog that size could kill someone without meaning to. Her neighbor, a retired sheriff's deputy named Frank, who lived across the cul-de-sac, told her plainly that he'd seen what big dogs could do and she should be careful. Rebecca heard all of it. She also noticed that Bear had never once growled at a human being. Not the vet, not the mailman, not the kids who rode their bikes past the yard. He just watched. A Boerboel doesn't spend its strength on threats that aren't real. It waits. What Rebecca didn't know, what nobody knew, was what Bear did after she fell asleep. I see you've made it this far and still haven't subscribed. I won't lie, that one stings a little. Hit the button and stay with me, because what that camera recorded is the part that gives people chills. The bond deepened into something she'd never had with another living thing. Bear learned her schedule better than she did. On her days she worked, he'd carry one of her shoes to the front door and sit beside it, waiting. On her days off, he'd flop his 190 pounds across her lap on the couch like he weighed nothing and refused to move for hours. He drooled a puddle the size of a dinner plate at every meal. He stole her pillow every single night and looked genuinely offended when she tried to take it back. He let the little girl next door dress him in a Dallas Cowboys jersey and hold a tiny tea party on his back. And he sat through all of it with the patience of a saint, because somewhere deep in that enormous chest, he understood the difference between a child and a danger. And for the first time in years, Rebecca slept. really slept. She'd struggled with insomnia since her divorce, lying awake doing the math on a life that hadn't gone the way she planned. But the sound of Bear breathing in the dark, slow and deep and steady, was the only lullaby that ever worked. She didn't need the pills anymore. She needed 190 pounds of dog breathing at the foot of her bed. Then, on a Tuesday in October, she finally looked at the camera footage. She wasn't even checking on Bear. A package had gone missing and she wanted to see if it had been delivered. So she scrolled back through the night feed, fast-forwarding through hours of an empty, dark living room. And then, at 3 a.m. exactly, something moved. Bear stood up from his spot in the hallway. Rebecca leaned closer to the screen, expecting nothing, expecting him to shift and lie back down. Instead, in the grainy green wash of the night vision, she watched her dog walk slowly and deliberately into the living room, stop at the front door, and stand there, completely still, his nose an inch from the gap at the bottom. He held that position for nearly 2 minutes, ears working, reading the air the way only a dog can. Then he walked to the window that faced the street, raised his head and looked out for a long moment. Then to the back door, the same stillness, the same focus. Then down the hallway, where he paused outside her bedroom just long enough to listen before turning and returning to his exact spot and lying back down. 4 minutes and 20 seconds, a full methodical patrol of the entire house, executed with the quiet precision of something he had done 1,000 times. Rebecca sat frozen, the missing package completely forgotten. Then she checked the night before. Same thing, 3 a.m. exactly. And the night before that, and the one before that. Every single night, for as far back as the footage went, Bear got up at 3 in the morning, walked the entire perimeter of the house, checked every door and every window, paused outside her room to make sure she was breathing, and went silently back to sleep. He had been doing it for 7 months. She had slept through every one of them, and she had never once known. If that gave you chills, you understand exactly why some dogs deserve the whole world. She told Frank, the retired deputy, over the fence the next morning. He didn't laugh. He got quiet, and then he said something she didn't understand at the time. That's not anxiety. That's a working dog doing his shift. The question is what he's listening for. 3 weeks later, she found out. It was 3:08 a.m. on a cold Saturday in November. Rebecca was asleep. The camera, she would learn afterward, caught all of it. Bear was halfway through his nightly patrol when he froze at the back door, the one that opened onto the patio. His whole body changed. The slow, sleepy walk became something coiled and low. The footage shows him drop his head, and though there's no sound on the recording, you can see the exact moment a growl started because his entire 190-pound frame began to vibrate. Outside, a man was kneeling at the back door, working a thin tool into the lock. What happened next took 4 seconds. Bear did not bark. He backed up 2 steps, then hit that door at a full run, all 190 pounds slamming into it at once. The door held, but the entire frame shook, and the camera caught a flash of movement through the glass as the man on the other side fell backward off the step. Then Bear reared up, planted his massive paws on the glass, and let out a bark so deep the microphone on the camera, designed for indoor sound, distorted into static. Lights came on in Rebecca's bedroom. By the time she reached the kitchen, the man was already gone, vaulting the back fence and disappearing into the dark. The police came. They found pry marks on the door and a dropped flashlight in the flower bed. They also told her that 2 homes in the neighboring subdivision had been broken into that same month, both at night, both through back doors, both while the residents slept. In one of them, a couple had woken to a stranger in their bedroom. Rebecca's house was the only one on her street that the man never got into. Frank came over the next morning with coffee and stood looking at the back door for a long time. He was listening for that, he finally said. 7 months of 3 a.m. patrols. He wasn't being neurotic. He was waiting for the one night it mattered. He looked at Bear, who was leaning his enormous head against Rebecca's hip. Somebody threw this dog away on a highway. They had no idea what they were giving up. Today, Bear is 5. He still patrols the house every night at 3 a.m., 4 minutes and 20 seconds, every door and every window. A pause outside Rebecca's room to make sure she's breathing. The camera still records it. She watches it sometimes, not because she's worried, but because there is something almost holy about watching a creature love you that quietly, that completely, while you sleep and never know. The little girl next door still throws him tea parties, Frank still brings coffee, and Rebecca still hasn't spent a single frightened mite since the morning her brother showed up with 190 pounds of trembling, thrown-away dog and said, "I didn't know what else to do with him." She used to think she gave Bear a home. She knows better now. He gave her something no alarm, no deadbolt, no pill ever could. He gave her the feeling of being watched over by something that asked for nothing in return but a pillow and a place by the door. When a dog wakes in the dark and walks the house while you sleep, don't call it strange. Don't call it broken. Maybe he isn't restless at all. Maybe he is standing the only watch he knows how to stand over the one person who finally stopped to save him. Some dogs were never taught to protect you. They simply decide to the moment you decide to keep them. Would you trust a dog the world threw away to stand guard over your life? Tell me in the comments.